Hello everyone, and welcome to another video in our series of quick snapshots on using the new and also some of our all-time favorite features and functions in the newest version of the Husqvarna Viking and Pfaff MySewNet embroidery software. In today's video we are going to be using either the gold or platinum version of the software, and we're going to be working in the Express Design wizard. So with this particular exercise, you will be using the graphic image that you created in the previous lesson in the Draw and Paint module. So make sure you know where you have saved your mandala design. Okay, so let's begin. We're going to come over from the welcome screen and we're going to click on our Express Design over here. It will now bring up the Express Design wizard. So we are now going to stay with Create Express in Embroidery, and we're going to click Next. We're now going to click on the Load a Picture icon, and now you're going to find where you saved your image from the previous lesson that we did on the Draw and Paint module. So here's my mandala image over here. So I select it, click OK, and now there it is in my screen. So now I shall click Next down the bottom. We don't need to rotate or crop this image, so we'll just click Next here. And now we're going to choose what size we want the design to be. So first of all, I want to fit it to a particular size of hoop. So I'm actually going to make sure that it's the 200 by 200 hoop. So if it's not showing 200 by 200 hoop here, then just click on the change hoop icon down the bottom here and then select the 200 by 200 hoop in the natural orientation. I also want to make sure that my design fits exactly into that hoop without the stitching hanging over the stitching area. So I also want to set a design size. So I'm going to put the dot here in Enter Design Size, and then I'm going to keep it as the width, and I'm going to make the width 190 millimeters. So that means that when it creates the satin stitch, it will not go outside the boundaries of the stitching area of the hoop. So now I click Next. I'm not going to change any of the colours in the design, I'll leave them as they are. So I shall just click Next again. This screen here now gives us a preview of the design as it would be in stitches. There are a couple of settings that we can play with over here. The first one is the Fabric Advisor. The Fabric Advisor sets up the compensation, the density of the stitching based on your weight of fabric. So if you click on the down arrow beside woven, you can choose fleece, knit, sheer, terry cloth or woven, and that will set the densities and compensation. You can also decide whether you want to have underlay stitching under the design to give it more stability depending on how big it is and what type of fabric you're sewing it on. So you can either just tick it or untick it. Today we'll just leave it unticked. The next section here is the preferred stitch type. This is where we can either have the whole design in satin stitch or a mixture of fill and satin. So at the moment everything's being done as a fill stitch, but I would like some of the smaller objects here, like my little swirls and my little wedges, to be a satin stitch rather than a fill. So I'm just going to move the slider up to number 4, and then I'm going to refresh the preview, let it recalculate the stitches, and now you can see I've got a satin stitch in here and also in here, which gives it a little bit more three-dimensional effect. So now I'm going to click on Finish, and there's my design ready to be stitched out. Okay, so what we can do is to see how it's going to stitch out, we're going to come up here to the top left hand corner and click on the design player, and then we're just going to click on play, and I'll just make it go by clicking on the fast forward button several times. I can make it double the speed. So I just boost it up a bit. So you can see it's going to do the hearts first, and then it's going to do the center, and then it'll work its way out from there. So we just make it go a little bit quicker, and there's the design completed. So as you can see in the preview here, there's this white line of stitching going across here and here. So now we're going to go in and remove that stitching. So we'll click cancel for the design player screen. And now we're going to come up here to our modify tab and click on modify. It now says that it needs to fix the selected design as stitches. Do we wish to continue? So we will click OK. Now that it's fixed as stitches, we can now see when you go into modify, everything's worked in a 2D view rather than your 3D view. So what we're going to do now is come over to our design panel over on the right, and in the color select box I'm going to untick every color except the white, so I will only see the white visible on the screen. Now if I zoom in for you, it might be a bit easier to see. Is you can see the stitches here. There is actually a stitch running across here, and there's a little dotted white line or dashed line here. That dashed line actually signifies a jump stitch which can't be removed. So what we're going to do now is select freehand select. I'm going to start up here above the stitching, left mouse click and hold, and I'm going to come over to the left, and very carefully I'm just going to draw through those little diamonds so I make sure I pick up that stitch. Just come around, and again on the right hand side just come out and around the diamonds to make sure we pick up that little stitch. Okay, and then when I come back to where I can join the start, just release the mouse key and I now get a selection box. So now that I've got the selection box, I'll come up here to delete and click delete, and all the stitches have gone that were hanging across there. So if you want to quickly check that they've actually disappeared, if you come back to the home tab, you'll now see that there's no white stitching now in the purple section of the design. So let's go back to our modify tab, because now I'd like to change the stitching order of how the design is going to sew out. I would like it to sew from the center out. So to achieve that, what we're going to do is rearrange the stitching order of the colors over here in the design panel. I'm going to select color number 1, which is the blue hearts, and down at the bottom of that select box I'm just going to use move color down, and I'm going to move the blue color down so it's in position number 5. I'm also wanting to swap the yellow and the green colors, so I'm going to select color number 3, and I'm going to move that one down one position also to number 4. So now I've changed the stitching order of the design, so it will stitch out from center out. So once we've done that, we can go back to the home tab. There we can see our design, and it is now complete, ready for you to save and export and send out to your machine. One thing you do have to remember that when you're using the Express Design Wizard is that you cannot change or alter the fill stitches once they've been created as stitches. So that's one of the limitations of the Express Design Wizard. In the next lesson that we're going to show you, which is part 2 of this one, is that we're going to use the exact same Express Design Wizard to get to this stage, but then we're going to use the complete digitizing module, which is in the Platinum version, where we can change and alter all the different areas of the design and customize it to our own personal preferences. So that's today's lesson. So thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll see you for the next one shortly. See you again. Bye bye.